Happy Friday morning, everybody. Joe coming in. Shout yourselves out in the comments. Tell me your locations in the comments. And we'll be getting started in a moment. Hope everyone's having a great Friday. Happy Halloween. I had a notion, I had a thought last night, maybe this morning, see if I still have my Halloween mask from last year, but I forgot to go look for it. So no Halloween decoration or costume for me today. But we are going to get to the material here today. Y'all can give me a Halloween gift. That'll be the closest I get to any Halloween adornments here today. As y'all are coming in again, shout yourselves out in the comments. Shout yourselves out in the comments. Tell me your locations in the comments. Let's make sure we are live everywhere. Live on Rumble. Good morning. Live on YouTube. Good morning to YouTube. We are live on X. Good morning, X. Yes. We are live on X. We are live on LinkedIn. Let me check. Let me verify that. Yes, live on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, X, Rumble, and YouTube. My name on all those platforms is at Dre All Day. So you want to follow me on any one of those platforms, just look up Dre All Day, LinkedIn, Rumble, X, and YouTube. We're live on Facebook / Work on Your Game University, and Instagram at Dre Baldwin, and TikTok at Work on Your Game. So I'm easy to find any social media platforms. Just look up either Work on Your Game or look up Dre Baldwin, which is my actual name. And I'm pretty easy to find. Give me your locations in the comments. Today's topic, we're talking about the gubernatorial race in the state of Virginia. I don't live in Virginia, but there's some interesting things happening there with the Democratic Party, the NAACP, and a whole bunch of people who I guess call themselves speaking for black people, whether they are black themselves or others. There's some interesting things occurring that we're going to talk about here today because they don't make sense, but they do at the same time. That's what we're going to talk about here today because there was a graphic that the NAACP put out a few days ago, and it's not adding up to me, but y'all will tell me if it adds up to you. As y'all are coming in, again, put your locations in the comments. Let me see if I can find this graphic now that the NAACP put out. It was, what's her name? Put your locations in the comments. And a lot of people have been talking about this all week. I've been engaged in some conversation about this week as well. Now I got to find the graphic. Where is it? Mentions verified. Maybe it's this. Put your locations in the comments, folks. I'm seeing if I can find this graphic that the NAACP put out the other day. Where is it? So this guy, no, not this. It has to be in here somewhere. Locations in the comments, everybody, and I am going to find this graphic because it is necessary to be discussed. A lot of people have had a lot to say about this. So let me shout a few people out here. Let's see. Over on TikTok, 140.6. Congrats on the first comment. Walnut Creek, California. KS Priest, good morning. Thank you for the heart. Annie AFF, good morning. Checking in from Kentucky. Carol Ann Collins, Newburgh, New York. Quail Ridge from Lincoln, California. You got your workout in. Shout out to people getting their workouts in early. Murphy the Muck, good morning. Bristol, Tennessee. Dwayne Mitchell, Detroit is in the building. Courtney from Nashville. Tina, thank you for the repost. Checking in from VA. Okay, so we got some Virginia residents in here. You all have a vested interest in this. Grace Bristol, happy Halloween from North Carolina. Googleplex, Keystone Heights, Florida. Shout out to Keystone Heights. Linda Gale, 1935 from St. Louis. Leona Lever from Massachusetts. Knox Seesaw from Dandridge, Tennessee. Congrats on thank you for grabbing the gift and the badge. Linda Gale, thanks for the gift. CW66 checking in from Texas. Shout out to Texas. Turner Frank Washing from the south suburb of Chicago. Marky Man from Sacramento. ZJ Zender, good morning. Trojan Hero said, wasn't the AG calling for the death of the chosen of his opposition? Yeah, that was happening too. Either the AG or the person running for it. AB, happy Halloween from Abby, rather. Happy Halloween from Ohio. Lori Iggy Lover from Oklahoma. Paul Gibson, good morning. Jewel, good morning. Creek Boys Fishing, Northeast Tennessee. Turner Frank said, good morning. South suburb of Chicago. Thanks for repost. Lori checking in from South Texas. Ron Johnson, Ohio. Heather, the written pieces, thanks for the heart. Duke's mom from Massachusetts. Heather from Oregon, the written pieces. Christian, thank you for the donuts early. Shop. I like donuts. I haven't had a donut in a while, but there's a donut shop that I'll probably go to maybe sometime in November. Give me a glazed donut. I mostly like glazed donuts. It's regular donuts. So the topic here today is what's happening in the state of Virginia. For those of you who don't know, that there's a gubernatorial election happening this Tuesday, November 4th. There's a lot of elections happening on Tuesday. And it's Abigail Spanberger. Abigail Spanberger. She is a female Democrat. She happens to be white, and that matters today. Because we're going to be talking about race. And she is running against Winsome Earl Sears. Winsome Earl Sears is also a woman. She is a Republican, and she happens to be black. So you have a white Democrat running against a black Republican, both females for the position of governor in the state of Virginia. So Virginia is going to have a female governor moving forward either way. Now, this is a historic race because both major party nominees are women. And if Earl Sears wins, this is Winsome Earl Sears, the black woman, the Republican, she would be the first black woman governor in the United States ever. She'd be the first ever black woman governor in the United States. Need to keep that in mind for context as we get into what we're going to talk about here today. Now, what adds heat to this and why this is even more interesting while we're talking about it is the internal Democratic dynamic. And when I say Democratic dynamic, I mean Democratic as in the Democratic Party, not Democratic as in we vote and choose the people who are going to run our cities and states based on elections. I mean the actual Democratic Party. Here's what's happening. High-profile Democrats, such as our friend, former President Barack Obama, they have been rallying behind the white woman, Abigail Spanberger, even though Winsome Earl Sears is a black woman. I find this very interesting. I think y'all should find it interesting as well. Now, there are some simple explanations and there are some more complicated explanations that we're going to get into as to why this is happening. Now, this has triggered a lot of commentary about the Democratic Party's consistency on race, gender, and identity politics, because the Democratic Party has played this card a lot for the last, is it fair to say, 65 years? Would any of you agree or challenge that number? For the last 65 years, the Democratic Party has played the cards of race, gender, and identity politics. They played it strongly. They played it consistently. They played it over and over and over and over again. And now you got a white woman running against a black woman for governor in the state of Virginia. This would be the first black woman ever to be governor in the state of Virginia. And all of a sudden, your same Democrats, they're saying, oh, vote for the white woman. Sounds interesting to me. And again, we're going to get into why, especially after 2024. 2024, the Democrats leaned heavily. They put all the weight they could put into it to the tune of $1 billion+ on vote for the black woman, quote unquote black woman, that being Mrs. former VP, Madam VP Kamala Harris. Didn't work, but they tried. And they pushed that hard for the Democratic ticket, and it didn't work. Critics are claiming that the party is now contradicting itself by backing a white woman over a black woman, all based on party alignment, not solidarity based on identity. Meanwhile, some black Democrats feel like they've been sidelined, and the elevation of Spanberger over Earl Sears by Democratic influencers and organizations, including the NAACP, comparing these candidates has stirred accusations of pandering and hypocrisy. These are not accusations, they are guilty of pandering and hypocrisy. We're going to talk about why they're guilty of it here today. For those who don't know me, my name is Dre Baldwin. Many know me as Dre All Day, former 9-year pro athlete, author of a few books, done a few TED Talks, and run this company called Work on Your Game Incorporated. Our focus over here is on what we call the power presence, which is all about how you can raise your prices, you can get a yes from the very beginning, and you can lead and command a room without saying a single word. You want to close more sales, make more money without talking, by talking less but winning more. That's the Power Presence Protocol. You can learn more about that by going to the link in my bio or profile or in pinned comment, whatever platform you're watching this on. We are streaming on 7 different platforms right now: TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, X, Rumble, and YouTube. The replays to all these live streams are always on my YouTube channel. So if you ever miss one, or you caught only some of it, or you had to leave before I'm done, you can always catch the replay on my YouTube channel. The link is in my profile on TikTok, or you can just go to YouTube/@DreAllDay, and that's where you'll find this channel. I have more than one YouTube channel, but you all are smart. Y'all can figure out how to find this stuff. So there's a few things that got said on X that I want to go over. So I'm looking for this NAACP graphic, because that's really the one that I want to start with, but I don't see the graphic right now. I'm going to have to look a little bit more so I can find it. And there was a graphic that the NAACP put out that was a comparison. Let me see if this is it. There was a comparison between the two candidates that the NAACP put out. And I don't know if this was the national NAACP or if it was I want to go over this graphic, because there was something that this graphic says that a lot of their supporters are trying to be disingenuous about where the NAACP actually stands. Because the NAACP, those of you who don't know who they are, by the way, is an organization that stands for the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And I very much question if that's what their real move is. NAACP, by the way, was started by white people, for those of you who don't know that. And to this day, the people who really run the NAACP are still white people, even though their frame it's about black people. Their current president is a guy named Derek Johnson. He's based in Jackson, Mississippi. He is black. He's the 19th president. He's an activist leader in Mississippian, Mr. Derek Johnson. This is him right here, Mr. Johnson. This is not about him. It is about the NAACP, though, because I had to find this graphic that they put out. And let me see. Maybe it was the NAACP Virginia who put this graphic out. But they were doing a comparison between the two candidates running for governor, and someone sent it to me. Someone sent this comparison document to me and they were saying, well, the NAACP is not really endorsing anyone. They're just giving you a side-by-side comparison. Like, this person here's where they stand on this thing. Here's where the other person stands on this thing. And I got to find this graphic because it very well illustrates exactly what's happening here. I should have found this before we started, but let me go back to what I was looking up before so I can find these things that got said. So here's what Vernon Jones said. Vernon Jones is a candidate running for the Secretary of State in the state of Virginia. He says Democrats, including Barack Obama and the NAACP. The NAACP is a very democratic organization. And when I say democratic, I don't mean majority rules. I mean Democrat with a capital D. They are trying to stop the first black female from being elected governor in Virginia and in America. This is exactly what they're doing. They are pushing heavily for this woman, Abigail Spanberger. So here are your two contestants for governor in the state of Virginia. So you all have a visual to go with what I'm saying here. Spanberger is obviously the white woman. She's the Democrat. Winsome Earl Sears is the black woman. She's the Republican. These are your two people running for governor in the state of Virginia right now. The Democratic Party is pushing heavily for the white woman as opposed to the black woman. Now, I thought the whole deal was for the Democrats, vote black. That if we have a chance for a black person to be the first to do something, Barack Obama, first black president, they told all the black people, vote for Barack Obama. Why? Because he's black. Kamala Harris runs. Let's all get behind Kamala Harris. Why? Because she's black. Barack Obama himself went on the campaign trail for Kamala Harris in 2024. Many of you remember this. The video went viral. Barack Obama was having a meeting with several black men who I guess are influential in the community. I don't know where this was. Might have been in Chicago. And I don't know where it was. It doesn't matter. Barack Obama's meeting with a bunch of black men, and he's saying, I need to tell you all, the brothers, this is him trying to use black guy slang, the brothers, that, hey, we need to support Kamala Harris because you need to support somebody who grew up like you, comes from the same place as you, went to the same schools as you, knows the same experiences that you know. His whole thing was she's lived the black life, and because you are also black and you've lived the black life, that means you should vote for her without any other consideration coming up. Now, why was Barack Obama saying this? There's a couple of reasons he was saying it. One reason is because he is a Democrat and he has to support his Democratic colleague, which is Kamala Harris. Another reason is because it was clear through their internal polling that Kamala Harris was failing to influence black males to support her. And it was clear that she was not pulling enough black male vote for the 2024 election. And she needed to do something to get black males to be on her side. Nothing she said was going to get the job done. So they brought in Barack Obama to get the job done. He failed to get the job done, too. That's another reason why he was saying it. And another reason is, well, they just didn't want Donald Trump to win. That's a good enough reason. If all the reasons fail, it's a good enough reason. It's just we don't want Donald Trump to be the winner. And again, all of those things fail. But Barack Obama, again, he played the race card for Kamala Harris. He played the race card for himself. He couldn't say it in so many words. Everybody else said it for him. But let's support the first black guy to be president. Let's support the first black woman to be president. Let's support this black person against this white person in order to win. Let's support Kamala because she's the first black vice president of the United States, and she's a female vice president. I believe first female vice president as well. All of it was about identity. All of it was about race. Identity of female, identity of black. The Democrats have played this card for a very long time. It didn't start with Barack Obama. It will not end with Barack Obama. So it's very interesting, ironic in a way, but much more coincidental than ironic, that now Barack Obama is telling everybody, vote for the white woman. I thought the whole thing was we want to get the black people in just because they're black. Isn't that what it's supposed to be about? You all tell me. You all tell me. Isn't the frame supposed to be, let's get the black person in because they're black? I'm not saying that I agree with this frame. What I'm saying is, has this not been the frame of the Democratic Party for the last X number of years? Again, I say this goes back 65 years. This is not some new thing. It didn't start with Barack Obama 17 years ago. This has been going on for a very long time. And I'm trying to find this NAACP graphic. And I don't know if they wiped this thing from the internet or what, but I don't see it. But this has been being talked about for a whole week. There's this guy on here who's this Chicago One Ray. He's talking about it, how NAACP is joining Barack Obama endorsing a liberal white woman in Virginia over Winsome Sears, who, by the way, is black. Let's see what Barack Obama actually said. Let's find Barack Obama's statement. Barack Obama said, I wasn't following him, so now I just follow Barack Obama. He said, so Abigail Spanberger, first of all, 3 days ago, here's what she said. She said, I'm so excited to welcome President Barack Obama to Norfolk. Norfolk, is that the capital of Virginia? I know Norfolk's in Virginia, but I don't know if it's the capital. Is Norfolk the capital? Might not be, but it doesn't matter. I'm so excited to welcome President Barack Obama to Norfolk this Saturday. We'd love to have you there with us. RSVP, and she has a website, abigailspanberger.com/Obama. So Virginia votes rally with Abigail Spanberger and Barack Obama in Norfolk. Oh, it's Richmond. Okay, that's right. Richmond is the capital. All right, so in Norfolk, they had this event. And as you can see, here's the graphic. Barack Obama and Abigail Spanberger. He has gone to Virginia to campaign for her. So one thing you should understand, that after you get a win via the Democratic Party, like President Obama, your job is not done when you get out of office, as y'all can see. Your job's not done when you get out of office. All right, they keep wheeling you back out there to do your duty and help other Democrats win after we helped you win. Barack Obama didn't win just all on his own efforts. He won because he had the Democratic machine behind him. And Democratic machine said, okay, we took care of you, Barack. Now you take care of us. Anytime we make that call, when that phone rings, you got to show up. Even if you don't like the candidate, you got to show up. Even if you were like a sellout, you got to show up. Even if you played the race card last year and it didn't work, now you're going to flip and not play the race card this year and support the white woman over the black woman. Why? Even though that's going to be at an expense a little bit to your reputation, or maybe a lot to your reputation, Barack. Listen, you won 2 terms as president. All right, we put the machine behind you. You ain't got no choice but to do what we tell you to do. So I don't know if Barack Obama even wants to do this, but he don't have a choice. And this is one of the trade-offs of being in politics as well, folks, that a lot of people don't understand. And Barack Obama said the following. Here's what he said. He said this on October 22nd, about 9 days ago. We have over, no, this is not the right one. Where is the one that he said about There's one that he said about Virginia. It wasn't that one. This vote that's coming up in California, which is Prop 50. Everybody's talking about this Prop 50 vote happening in California. So where do you all stand on Prop 50, you Californians? Are you for or against Prop 50? So I'm looking on his website that Barack Obama has linked to. So he seems to be a supporter of Prop 50. How do y'all feel about Prop 50, Californians? Yes or no on Prop 50? So I'm getting some yeses and some nos. We're talking today about the Virginia gubernatorial race and the fronting Democrats who are now supporting the white woman over the black woman, which is very interesting to me. So Barack Obama said, I'm trying to find what he actually said on this. Maybe he didn't put a post on X. Oh, here it is. Barack Obama says the following. This is on the 17th, exactly 2 weeks ago. Virginia, the stakes couldn't be higher for this election, and Abigail Spanberger is the best choice for governor. She'll work to stand up for Virginia families because that's what she's done for her entire career. This is just boilerplate politician stuff. And she has real plans to lower the cost of housing, healthcare, utilities, and grow Virginia's economy. So make a plan to vote today at abigailspanberger.com. This got 5 million views. And of course, a bunch of people came on here and trashed Barack Obama for having said this. And he had to do it. Again, I don't think these are Barack Obama's true beliefs. I think he has to do what he has to do when you work in politics. Sometimes you got to say stuff that you don't really want to say. You got to support things that you don't want to support. And you got to be quiet on things that you want to speak about. That's what happens when you get into politics. Barack Obama is your typical politician. This is another reason why I don't want to be a politician, because you got to basically sell your soul if you win behind the machine. If the machine is what helps you win, your soul has been sold to the machine, and you got to do what the machine tells you to do. Barack Obama does what the machine tells him to do. I don't think he gives a damn about Spanberger or Winsome Earl Sears. He lives, I don't know where he lives, but it ain't Virginia. I don't think he gives a damn about this, but the Democratic Party made that call. They knocked on his door. Barack got to show up and do what he has to do. So he looks like a complete sellout here because, again, just last year, he said, you need to vote for the person who looks like you, who comes from the same background as you. So who is closer to coming from the same background as black people in the state of Virginia gubernatorial race? Is it Spanberger or is it Winsome Earl Sears? I think, you all tell me, I think it's Winsome Earl Sears. But look what Barack Obama saying. He's saying, vote for the white woman. And I have to find this response from this guy. There's a guy I was engaging with a couple of days ago on X where we were talking about this. I'm going to find this graphic because this graphic will help make this point. So there was Winsome Earl Sears herself. She found this clip from Barack Obama. Let's play this clip again. Here's Barack Obama last year campaigning for Kamala Harris. This is in a post-event meeting he's having with a handful of black males. It's like maybe 10, 15 black men in the room. You can't really see the whole room. But listen to what Barack Obama said. This is last year.
Speak to your and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you,
that's common.
Went to college with you,
common.
Understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences.
This is Kamala he's talking.
Who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities.
So you really listen to what he's saying. He's saying a whole bunch of nothing because he couldn't come up with anything substantial to say about Kamala Harris because there was nothing substantial about Kamala Harris, which is why only thing he could do was pull the race card. And he didn't say this on the main stage because he would have sounded ridiculous. He said it quietly, but he knew he was on camera. This is what he said for Kamala Harris. Someone who grew up with you, knows your struggles, went to school with you, knows your background, came from the same background that you came from. His whole thing is playing the emotional race card. That's what Barack Obama's doing here for Kamala Harris just a year ago. Now here he is co-signing the white woman over the black woman. Somebody make sense of this. We already know why this is happening. He's doing it because Barack Obama's a Democrat. And I already explained to you all, this is what you have to do when the Democratic Party helps you. All right, you sold your soul. All right, you owe them back. Whether you think you owe them back or not, you owe them back. And Barack Obama has to pay them back. Why? Because they helped him get on. So let me find this graphic from the NAACP. Let's see. This is probably about, wasn't just yesterday, about 2 days ago. And there are so many people co-signing this because they're Democrats, lifelong Democrats. There was some guy that I was having an exchange with. Let me see, what was this? This is 2 days ago. It was probably about 2 days ago. Some guy I was having an exchange with, and he's saying, well, hey, this graphic by the NAACP is not really saying that you should pick one person over the other. They're just putting the information out there, which is nonsense. That's not what they were doing at all. And if I can find it, I can find it. Maybe the thing got wiped off the internet. It might have got wiped off the internet because I am not seeing it. Has any of you seen this graphic that the NAACP put out? Where is it? Let me see. Is this it? So people are talking about it, but I still don't see the graphic. I see everybody talking about it, but I don't see the graphic itself. Watch the NAACP. So this guy named Topher said, watch the NAACP endorse a white woman over a black woman has to be a joke. Has to be the joke of the century, which it actually is the joke of the century, because again, how are you going to call yourself the Association for the Advancement of Colored People and then not support a black person getting a historic win by being the first black woman to be governor of your state? And again, I'm not saying that you should make a voting decision based on something like this. What I'm saying is, if the NAACP and the Democratic Party consistently lean into identity politics, pick the black person because they're black, can we agree? Just give me a yes or no in the comments, because I want to make sure that y'all are following what I'm saying here. Can we agree that the Democratic Party, for the last at least 25 years, has consistently said to everybody, especially the black people, vote for the black person because they're black. Support the black person because they're black. Give me a yes or a no in the comments if you all recognize that. Even if you're white, do you recognize that they do that? They say support the black person because they're black. Now, all of a sudden, it's support the white person because they're a Democrat. And don't support the black person because they happen to be a Republican. This is completely disingenuous by the Democratic Party. Not the Democratic Party, excuse me. Democrats are Democrats, by Barack Obama and other blacks who are supporting Spanberger. And what somebody was saying to me the other day was, well, the reason why Sears is not getting the, let me make sure I have her name right as I'm trying to find this information. The reason why Sears is not getting the, Sears, okay. The reason why she's not getting the endorsement of the NAACP is because we know Barack Obama, we know his story. But the reason Sears is not getting it is because her policies do not align with the advancement of colored people. All right, this is nonsense. I strongly push back on that. We're going to get to those in a minute, because NAACP graphic, the one that I am struggling to find right now, laid it all out. Well, here's what Royce White had to say. Royce White says, the NAACP is a puppet organization. This is true. You people are bought and paid for by the Democratic Party, backing a liberal white woman instead of Winsome Sears for governor. Is the NAACP bought and paid for by the Democratic Party? Give me a yes or no in the comments, those of you who know anything about the NAACP. Is the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People bought and paid for by the Democratic Party? Yes or no? They absolutely are. NAACP was started by white people. And what they did was they went and found a couple black faces to be the face of the organization, because they knew they couldn't sell the concept with a whole bunch of white people standing there telling black people, hey, we made an organization to help y'all. Black people wouldn't buy that. So they said, we got to get a couple white faces to support and be basically the face of the organization. So they went and found a couple white people like W.E.B. Du Bois. And who was the other people? Who's the other person that they had that started it? Let me go find this. Who? I'll ask Grok. Started the NAACP, and who were the main black faces that they put on the front line to represent the organization at the beginning to get the support of black people? I was just looking at this the other day, so I can't remember the names of other people. So NAACP, Grok has gotten pretty fast, by the way. Grok is faster than ChatGPT, for what it's worth. It was founded on February 12, 1909 as an interracial civil rights organization aimed at combating violence, lynching, and discrimination against African Americans. and it galvanized activists, building on the early efforts of W.E.B. Du Bois, his Niagara movement, and advocated for the full civil rights, but struggled with funding and internal divisions. It was initiated by a diverse group of about 60 signatories, a diverse group of 60 signatories who issued a call for a conference on the status of African Americans. Is described as an interracial effort. The core organizers of the NAACP, this is coming from Grok, by the way, the core organizers of the NAACP were predominantly white people, progressives, socialists, journalists, and reformers who recognized the urgency of anti-racism work. All right, well, let me just read that sentence one more time. I just want y'all to think about. I want y'all to think about how that sounds with what you hear these days. This is 120 years ago. The core organizers were predominantly white people who were progressives, socialists, journalists, and reformers who recognized the urgency of anti-racism work. That's how they describe the people who started the NAACP. The 7 prominent black people were W.E.B. Du Bois, Ida B. Wells, Mary Church Terrell, she was an educator and a women's rights activist, Archibald Grimke, he was a lawyer, Oswald Garrison Vilbert. Oh, excuse me. That was a white person. So he wasn't black. So it was just them. That was it. Just those 4 people that I just said. White founders included Mary White Ovington. She was a social worker. William English Walling. He was a labor reformer. Henry Moskowitz. I'll just pause in there. Henry Moskowitz. He was a J. Everybody got that? Oswald Garrison Vilbert. He was a white guy. Moorfield Story. He was the first president. First president of NAACP was a white guy, by the way. First president of the NAACP was a white man. And Lillian Wald. She was a nurse. First formal meeting was at a Henry Street settlement in New York City, and that's when they first launched the organization. So the black faces on the front lines I already told you about. W.E.B. Du Bois. He was used as basically the face to get black people to pay attention. It's the same thing that the Brooklyn Nets did when they were trying to do the redevelopment in Brooklyn. And they had a whole bunch of people led by Cornel West saying, we don't want y'all to do a redevelopment project in Brooklyn because all you're going to do is displace a bunch of black people who don't have a whole bunch of money. Y'all know about this? Anybody know about what happened in Brooklyn? Because I'm going to give y'all an example here that's more contemporary that will help you all understand exactly how this works. And this is what the political left, I don't necessarily mean politics, but the political left does when they need to get something pushed through and they want black people to support it. Do y'all know what happened in Brooklyn? So y'all understand that the NBA, there's a team called the Brooklyn Nets. Y'all know about that? Now, before they were the Brooklyn Nets, they were called the New Jersey Nets. They used to play in New Jersey in this place called the Meadowlands. It was not far from New York City, but it was on the other side between New York and New Jersey. So here's what happened. A Russian man by the name of Mikhail Prokhorov, he bought the Brooklyn Nets. It was probably about 10, 15 years ago-ish, something like that. He buys the Brooklyn Nets. Now, he's this rich Russian oligarch with all this money. He brings all his money over to the United States, and he wants to do a big development project in Brooklyn. He didn't buy the Brooklyn Nets because he cares so much about basketball. He wanted that on his mantle, and he wanted to do a big development project in Brooklyn. He connected with this guy named Brett Ratner, I believe the guy's name. Brett Ratner is a white guy. And they wanted to do this big development in Brooklyn. And they had the money to do it. The problem is, in order to do stuff like that, we talked about this yesterday with companies like Walmart. When they want to do a big project in a big city, a bunch of people in the city who don't want them to do it, they get to oppose, and they go to city council meetings. And you ever see these videos where people go to city council meetings and stuff, and they argue and they make their voices heard and they protest? That stuff actually works. You may think that it doesn't work. That stuff does actually work. You make enough noise and you scare enough of the city council people, they will do what you want them to do. So politics does work on the local level in that way. At the federal level, it doesn't. On the local level, it does work. This is how, again, people keep Walmarts from building in their cities. So Brooklyn was going to get gentrified because they're going to bring all this money into Brooklyn and build these brand new developments and these new high rises and these new apartment buildings. And all of you know that when new real estate gets built in a place, usually that new real estate ain't cheap. Y'all get that? Usually new real estate costs more than old real estate. So they're going to build all this stuff in Brooklyn. Now, here's the issue. Brooklyn has a whole lot of black people. I don't know what the demographics of Brooklyn is, when it comes to race. Let's see if we can find out. What are racial demographics of Brooklyn, New York? So they're trying to build this new development project in Brooklyn. And people like Cornel West and a bunch of people in Brooklyn were not fans of this. Brooklyn has approximately 2.6 million people on its own. It's 36% white, 26% black, 12% Asian, and those are the numbers that they give me. So I guess that adds up to most of it. So there's a lot of black people in Brooklyn. It's much closer to being even than it is in the whole United States. They were getting a ton of pushback from black people in Brooklyn because what they were planning to do was going to displace a bunch of black people from their homes in Brooklyn. They were going to get kicked out of their homes. Those homes would be replaced by new construction, and that new construction costs more than those people could afford to pay. Was meant pretty much a bunch of black people who don't have money are going to get kicked out of Brooklyn, and a bunch of people who do have money, who ain't black, were going to move in and take their place. Basically, they were going to gentrify Brooklyn by race. That's what they were planning on doing. And by the way, this whole thing did happen. But let me tell you what happened. Here's the process. Problem was they weren't going to be able to get this through because black people were making enough noise at those city council meetings that they were not able to get approval. We can't do this. We can't make this project work. Two white guys, so let's just call them white, Mr. Ratner and Mr. Prokhorov. We can't make this work. How are we going to make this work? They did the same thing the NAACP did 100 years earlier. Here's what they did. They said, we got to go find a black person. We got to find a black person who can help us push this whole thing through. We got to find a black person that will be on our side, is going to co-sign what we're doing, that will make the black people be okay with this so that we can still do what we want to do. We just got to we got to put a black person at the front line of what we're doing. We'll give them a little bit of money and a little bit of power, or at least make it look like they have some money and power so that black people think this is something for black people because we have one black face at the front line, and that's how we'll get the whole project through. Anybody know who the black person was? All y'all know who he is once somebody says the name. Anybody know who that black person was they went and found? It's one black person. Anybody know who it was? All of you know this person's name as soon as somebody says it. Oh, so all y'all know. Jay-Z. They went and found Jay-Z. That's what they did. No, not Al Sharpton. He doesn't have enough call. He doesn't have enough pull with the black community. He's too old. They had to find somebody popular, somebody hip, somebody cool. Who's popular, hip, and cool. And ain't Al Sharpton. Jay-Z. They went and got Jay-Z. So y'all remember when Jay-Z kept rapping about how he owned the Brooklyn Nets? Y'all remember that? I own the Brooklyn Nets. I'm moving the Nets to BK. He said that in the song. In words in Paris, moving the Nets to BK. I own the Brooklyn Nets. I moved the Nets to Brooklyn. And all those things he would say. Because Jay-Z is from Brooklyn. You listen to Jay-Z's music, you know he's from Brooklyn. So this is they found a perfect person. So this is what they did. They went and got Jay-Z. They gave Jay-Z a small percentage of ownership of the Brooklyn Nets. So was Jay-Z technically an owner of the Nets? Technically, yes, he was. Same way that I'm technically an owner of Amazon. I own some Amazon stock, but not nearly as much as Jeff Bezos. I don't get to call shots, but technically, am I an owner of Amazon? Yes, I am. All right. So Jay-Z was an owner of the Brooklyn Nets, an owner. He had less than 1% of the Brooklyn Nets. That less than 1%, and he got some money for that, and he got front row tickets to the games. Remember, Jay-Z used to be at the Brooklyn Nets games all the time with Beyonce for the photo ops. All of that was part of the plan for Mr. Prokhorov and Mr. Ratner. They wanted to do this project in Brooklyn. So when Jay-Z became the face of the project, so these two white guys said, let us step back. We still are putting the money up. We're still going to make all the money, but we're not going to get all the attention. Let's let this guy get all the attention. Let Jay-Z get all the attention. So this is Jay-Z rapping and telling everybody I own the Brooklyn Nets. Y'all remember this. This is about 2010, 11, 12, 13, around that time. This whole thing is happening. So guess what they were able to do? They got all the black people to shut up. All the black people in Brooklyn who didn't want this project to happen, they had to get quiet. Why? Because a whole bunch of other black people said, why are y'all hating on a black man trying to do good things for Brooklyn? Because again, it went from being two white guys trying to do something in Brooklyn that black people opposed. Then it was, a black guy's doing something for Brooklyn. The black guy was Jay-Z. Jay-Z was the front. Jay-Z was not the one doing it. It was these two white guys. But they got Jay-Z to go to the front. Now, when Jay-Z goes up there, a whole bunch of black people go and support it and say, oh, Jay-Z. Jay-Z's from Brooklyn. Jay-Z's a famous rapper. Jay-Z is a millionaire, a billionaire. He got Beyonce. He's one of the most famous rappers out there. We can't stop Jay-Z. We can't go against Jay-Z. So what they did is they got the masses of black people who don't understand what was happening to shout down the minority black people who were saying, don't do this. It doesn't matter if it's Jay-Z. They got them to get those guys quiet. They moved their whole project through. Now you got the Brooklyn Nets are in Brooklyn Nets are in Brooklyn. You got that whole development. The Brooklyn Nets coming to Brooklyn was more than just the basketball team. It was an entire re-gentrification of the borough of Brooklyn. Anybody here live in Brooklyn? And you know how much it costs to live in Brooklyn these days? How much it used to cost versus how much it costs now? This was a big part of how the cost of living in Brooklyn went up because of what they did. I'm not necessarily saying it's a negative thing. What I'm explaining to you all, because I don't live in Brooklyn, what I'm explaining to you all is this is what they do. Is that if some white folks want to do something in a black community and they get any pushback, the first thing they do is, and they're smart enough to understand this is what they do. They say, let's go get us a black person who can be the front-facing person of this so that the black people won't push back. Because they're going to black people will push back against white people. They won't push back against one of their own. So let's go get Jay-Z. So Jay-Z, if we would just want to keep this plain and simple, Jay-Z sold out Brooklyn. That's what he did. He sold out Brooklyn. He got paid. He got to say he owned the Brooklyn Nets. He got to get front row seats to the game. He made some money for himself. He got to add it to his resume that I brought the Nets to Brooklyn. He didn't really, but he gets to put that on his resume. He sold out Brooklyn. That's what he did for money that he got from those two white guys. That happened. Anybody want to question the direction of that story? Please let me know. All right, that happened. And I'm telling you all this to help you understand. It's the same thing that they copied the plan of the NAACP. NAACP said, we want to have an organization run by white people that's going to tell black people, hey, here's what you do because we are working for you. But they knew that's not going to sound right if a bunch of white people come up and say, hey, we're going to help you black people out. This is early 1900s. So slavery wasn't that long ago. A bunch of people who had experienced slavery and knew about it, firsthand or secondhand, were still alive. So that wasn't going to work. So they said, we got to get some black people up here. So they went and got Ida B. Wells and W.E.B. Du Bois. They sold out the black community to do the bidding of the white people. That's what happened. And what's happening today, 2025, now you have former President Barack Obama. Same playbook. They just change up the way they do it. Same playbook, folks. Barack Obama works for the Democratic Party. Is the Democratic Party a black-owned organization? Just to be clear, just to make sure we're all on the same page. Is the Democratic Party owned by black people? Is it run by black people? No, Barack Obama works for the Democrats. And again, you know he works for the Democrats because he's been out to pasture for 10 years. Why is he doing this? Why is he campaigning for some white woman to be governor of Virginia? He doesn't live in Virginia. Why does he care? Because he works for them. He works for the Democratic Party. His work for the Democratic Party was not 2008 to 2016. No, it's until you can't talk anymore. Until you get the Joe Biden status, you work for us. And who's us? People who run the Democratic Party. Who runs the Democratic Party? I don't know, but ain't no black person. I do know that. Y'all, everybody follow where I'm at here? So Barack Obama is essentially a sellout. Barack Obama's a sellout. That's what he is. He sold out the Democratic Party. He sold out, black people to work for the Democratic Party and do their bidding because they did something for him. And here's what happens with these people, from W.E.B. Du Bois to Jay-Z to Barack Obama, is that the white people running these organizations go to them and say, listen, this is what we'll do for you. We'll make you a household name, or you're already a household name. We'll make you more of a household name. We'll give you some money. If you already got money, we'll give you more money. We'll give you status and a title. If you already have status and a title, we'll give you more status and more titles. Again, Jay-Z, Barack Obama. And in exchange for all those things, you're going to look like a superhero to your own people. And because you have that superhero status, anything you say, they'll follow. Look at Jay-Z. Look at Barack Obama. Look at W.E.B. Du Bois. He's still well known. 100 years later, we still know his name. And in exchange for that, you get all this stuff quietly. Don't tell everybody you got it from us. But now, because you're a star, they'll listen to anything that you say. And you're going to say what we tell you to say because we're the one who gave you all the stuff that made you a star in the first place. That's the sellout right there. So is Barack Obama a sellout? Yes, he is. He's a sellout because he's trying to tell you vote for this person because they're black. That's what made him a sellout. Not that he's a Democrat. Being a Democrat does not make him a sellout. You can be a Democrat if you want to be. Any of you listen to this. Or Republican or independent, whatever you want to be. He's a sellout because he tried to use race to get you to support the Democratic Party. And the Democratic Party is not a party of black people. That's what makes him a sellout. Jay-Z is a sellout because he let those white people give him the money and the title and the status of I own the Brooklyn Nets so he could sell out Brooklyn to displace a whole bunch of black people to let those white people come in and build. Jay-Z can afford to live in Brooklyn, but can the people who got displaced, can they afford to live in Brooklyn? That's what makes him a sellout. The same thing with W.E.B. Du Bois and the NAACP, again, which was started by white people. These people are sellouts. And this is what happens. This has been happening in the black community for hundreds of years, ever since slavery ended. White people realize, okay, we can't go to them and tell them to follow us because, well, they don't trust us. So we got to get a black person to say it. How do we get a black person to say what we want them to say? Let's make them a star. We give them enough. They'll be happy enough to do our bidding because at least they got taken care of. And it's not about the whole group. It's about as long as they're taken care of, we're good. And this is where we're at. So this is why we have this situation with the NAACP. And I've been trying to find this graphic, but I do not see this graphic. No matter how much I look, I'm not seeing the graphic. I wish I could find the guy who was responding to me the other day because he was actually posting it. And if I could find that guy, I'll look through my mentions while I'm talking here. See if I can find this graphic that this guy gave me the other day. But I get so many mentions on X, and I'm not sure I'm going to find it. This had to be about maybe 2 or 3 days ago. Let me see if I can find it on. Let's look at our trusty Google. Maybe Google can tell me. So this is NAACP graphic, Virginia gubernatorial race, 2025. Let's see if we can find it this way. Virginia voter guide. Is this it? So they do have a Virginia voter guide at the NAACP's web main site. And the key issues. Okay, this is not a graphic, but it does have the information. So I'm going to go over this because this is important. I want to go over this because the NAACP, they have 6 areas. Cannabis, 1. Climate change, number 2. Gun laws, number 3. Minimum wage, number 4. Voting rights, number 5. And women's rights, number 6. Now, what the NAACP, here it is. I found the graphic. All right, it took me all this time. Here's the graphic. Now, I'm not going to read everything on this graphic. You can find this on the NAACP website. Just look up Virginia voter guide. Now, first of all, first thing I want you to notice about this graphic that I'm going to point out to you, they label it at the top, nonpartisan candidate guide. So NAACP is framing this whole graphic as if they're just telling you objectively what each person is going for. I want you to keep that in mind as I go over what they have on here. So they have Winston Earl Sears, that's the Republican black woman. They got Abigail Spanberger, that's the Democrat white woman. And here are the issues. They got several issues here. It's more than 6. Abortion, climate change, criminal justice, economy, the economy again, education again, gun laws, healthcare, immigration, labor, LGBTQ rights, the plant, cannabis, minimum wage, tariffs, and voting rules. I'm not going over every single one of these. The way that this is framed is what I want people to understand. They frame it as if anything. Let me give you some examples. I'm not even going to try to explain it. So the first one is abortion. Let's just go with this one. First one is abortion. Winston Earl Sears, her position is ban. She opposes adding reproductive rights to the Virginia Constitution. First of all, it's not reproductive rights. You have a right to reproduce by having sex. So that's the first sleight of hand right there. She supports a 15-week ban. She voted against guaranteeing a right to contraception in Virginia law, allegedly. And Abigail Spanberger, she supports adding reproductive rights to the Constitution. She supports the right to choose, quote unquote. You already chose by getting pregnant. How'd you get pregnant? You had consensual sex. So again, this is verbal. This is the verbal sleight of hand. She says that Congress needs to codify Roe versus Wade as a federal law. Well, we know that's not going to happen, but they put this on the graphic. So they frame this as negative for Sears, positive for Spanberger. You put something in red. I understand it's red and blue because it's Democrat and Republican. And NAACP is a Democrat organization. Blue is a much more cool and positive color than red. Red is an alert color. Use the color red when you're trying to alert, get somebody's attention. This is why emergency vehicles, what do you call it? Ambulances, stop signs, police lights, they all have red in them. Why? Because the red is an alert signal. It's an alert to catch your attention and say, here's some danger right here. Pay attention. A caution sign, they're always red. Red is a thing that you should be, subconsciously is a way of telling you, be afraid, be alert, pay attention, be careful. Blue is a cooling sign that says, this is welcoming, come in, clouds are blue. The sky is blue. All right, the blue is a way of saying, this is cool, this is good, This is welcoming. This is comforting. This is going to help you. The NAACP is not dumb. Now, I understand the red and blue, Democrat, Republican, but that's not what they're doing here. Let's see another one. Criminal justice. Here's the criminal justice one. They say that Winsome Sears would be, open quote, tough on crime. Her position is simple. Protect innocent Virginians and prosecute criminals. All right, does that sound pretty basic? Sounds pretty simple, right? Here's what Abigail Spanberger says. She supports increasing officer pay and funding community policing. What the hell does community policing mean? This is more George Zimmerman's. She says that the defund police slogan was a terrible idea. Okay. I don't even know why they put that in here. That she says defund police was a terrible idea. Winsome Sears didn't say anything about defunding police. I doubt she ever said anything about we should actually defund police. So they're putting this in here. My theory is they're putting this in here as a way of distancing her from the defund police concept because a lot of Democrats were okay with that back in 2020. That's just my theory. I may be wrong about that. So here's what they say about education. The limiting of teaching about racism. So on Winsome Earl Sears, they say she is yes to this. She wants to limit teaching racism. Now, it depends on what they mean by that. Winsome Sears says, quote, slavery happened absolutely, and there are some vestiges of it. But how long are we going to go back there? And they pulled that quote out of context. That's what they put in the graphic. Also, we don't have time to teach about oppression. I am proof that we are progressing. Okay, fair enough. Again, these are pulled out of context, but that's what they put on there. Here's what they say for Abigail Spanberger, the white woman Democrat. That she says, no, we should not limit teaching racism. She says, we have the greatest elements of our foundation in our country. We also have the darkest moments in our country's history. And that history is important for us to learn from. All right, neither one of these is them actually stating a position on the concept. All they did, this is what the NAACP is doing. I'm bringing this up to help you all understand how they lie to you with this nonsense. And if you don't notice it, that they can easily mislead you. So they're framing this as Winsome Sears is about limiting the teaching of racism in school when that's not even what she's saying. They just took two quotes of hers from who knows where they got these quotes, 2 sentences, and they put that in there and say, well, this is proof that Winsome Sears does not want to teach racism in school. This is not proof. All they're doing is framing this by using quotes that support what they're saying she's saying when she didn't actually say this. Then they're saying Abigail Spanberger said, this history is important for us to learn from. That doesn't mean she didn't say in the very next sentence that we don't have to have this as a main thing in school. But we don't know because they just pulled it out of context. So they pull these quotes out of context that support the argument that they want to make. And then they have the nerve to put that this is a nonpartisan guide at the top of this graphic. Let me give you one more. Just so y'all understand what they're doing here. What's another one we should do? Voting rules. And this is how the NAACP frames this. Should we make voting harder or easier? That's the question. Should we make voting harder or easier? First of all, this is a disingenuous question. This question is disingenuous. Voting is simple. It's not about being hard or easy. Is voting hard or easy? Let me ask the audience. Is voting hard or easy? I don't think it's either one. Voting is not hard and it's not easy. It's just a thing. It's like breathing. Is breathing hard or easy? It's just something that you do. If you want to vote, you go to the polling place and you vote. If you don't want to vote, you don't vote. How is it hard or easy? But anyway, this is a question that they put on here. Here's what they say that Winsome Sears says. This is what they say the Republican says. They say her position is harder. Right here, harder. Winsome Sears wants to make voting harder. Again, y'all notice the framing here? She supports a Virginia voter ID requirement and strict vote-by-mail procedures. That's what it says. She supports a voter ID requirement. You know what voter ID means, folks? That means you got to bring your ID to vote. If you don't have ID, you can't vote. Winsome Sears, the Republican, supports voter ID. You got to have ID to vote. Is that making voting harder? And strict vote-by-mail procedures. In other words, you're going to vote by mail, you got to follow certain rules so that it cannot be abused. And all of that, those 2 points alone, is why the NAACP says that Winsome Sears supports harder to vote policies. Now, here's what they say the white woman is saying, Abigail Spanberger. They're saying that she is saying that she wants to make voting easier, that she voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. So they named this Voting Rights Act after John Lewis. John Lewis was a black man who marched with Martin Luther King and the March on Washington many years back. He passed away some time ago. John Lewis was a black, what do we want to call this guy? He was a activists. That's the word. Black activists. So they name it after him so that they get a whole bunch of black people to go for it. And this white woman, as a Democrat, she supported this act that supports the General Assembly's supports the General Assembly's work to add a restoration of voting rights amendment to the Virginia Constitution. This is nonsense language. Restoration of voting rights. Restoration meaning giving voting rights back to somebody who had them taken away. Well, who's she talking about? We don't know. It's not in the graphic. In this graphic, they're making it seem like this woman is supporting black people. This is the frame. Remember, this graphic is by the NAACP. So they say that this white woman, the Democrat, she voted for the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Doesn't say the act actually passed. Doesn't say the act is real or what it does. All it says is that she voted for it. They put John Lewis's name in there because most black people know who John Lewis is. He was a black activist who stood next to Dr. Martin Luther King. So if this white woman is supporting something with his name on it, then it must seem that she's supporting black people. That's what they're intimating here. And again, this is the NAACP. And she supports the work to add restoration of voting rights amendment to the Virginia Constitution. Understand what they're saying here. She supports the work to do it, i.e. it hasn't actually happened. She's just supporting it. She's okay with it. And again, it's in quotes, but it doesn't even say who supports it. Who supports it? Who came up with this quote? Where did this quote come from? It didn't come from her mouth because she wouldn't say this way. Supports the General Assembly's work to add a restoration of voting rights. Again, this is the verbal sleight of hand that they use on people. And the person who had actually sent me this is a person I was engaging with on X a couple of days ago. I couldn't find this person's particular post. And at some point after he sent this, I said, you can't possibly, I said, it's obvious that this is leaning towards the Democrat and not the Republican. Can you not see that? I said this to this guy. This is an older black guy. And he said, no, it's nonpartisan. I said, dude, you got to be joking. You know that this is not nonpartisan. All right. And I said to him, I was kind of being sarcastic. This is what I said to him. I said, do you work for the NAACP? And you know what he said back? He said, no, I don't work for them, but both of my parents are members, and I've been a member my entire life. I said, yeah, perfect. Exactly. The guy's a member of the NAACP. And he is making it seem like he has some objective opinion on this whole situation. Now, Spanberger being his Democrat nominee, she is leading in the polls. As of right now, as of early October, so a few weeks ago, her lead was 50.3% to 42.9%. So she had about an 8-point lead in early October. Let me see if we can find out if Grok knows where this thing currently stands. Where are both gubernatorial candidates for the state of Virginia polling as of this morning, or the last polls that were reported? Let's see where things stand right now. Right now, it says, and Rock has gotten super fast. This is great. So, on October 28th, this organization called YouGov, they said that Spanberger was up big, about 15 points, with 1% undecided. Then there's another one that's saying about 10 points, another one saying 7 points. The closest one is one saying about 5-point lead. So it looks like Spanberger has a solid lead. All the polls are saying that she has a solid lead, and she may end up winning. Maybe even probably won't end up winning. Now, Winsome Earl Sears is a black woman. She's a Republican nominee. It complicates this simplistic left versus right, white versus black narrative, which it should, because her presence flips those usual identity expectations. And again, are voters going to choose identity or are they going to choose race? Now, what happens here, and this is why Barack Obama stepped up, and why the NAACP got involved. A lot of black influencers who are politically inclined, they're getting involved. They're saying that Winsome Sears' policies do not support the advancement of colored people. Here's the problem that I have with that, is that we just went over some of her policies. There's nothing in all that graphic. Y'all can look it up yourselves. Nothing in all of that graphic that I say goes against the advancement of colored people. And there's nothing that Spanberger is with that is allegedly advancing colored people. But let's look at it a little bit more so we can see what exactly are they talking about. What is Spanberger in support of that is going to help black people? Let's see. Let's see if we can find out. What is it that she wants that is going to help black people? Climate change, does that help black people? No. Abortion? No. Criminal justice. She supports increasing officer pay and funding community policing, that defunding police is a bad idea. Yeah, okay. We don't believe you. You need more people. The economy. Let's see. Education. So Winsome Sears allegedly supports the use of state funds to pay for private schools. Allegedly. That's what it says that she supports. She would divert a portion of state per pupil funds from public to private schools and supports funding more charter schools. All right, charter schools are good ideas, and they don't cost people money out of pocket. Education, though, Spanberger says it says that she opposes efforts to seek to take public dollars out of public schools. Well, public schools have proven to be failing entities. So why would you keep money in there when it's already failing? I think a lot of black people have been conditioned to believe that public school equals black and it equals good, and that a charter school or a private school equals white and bad. This is a false frame, but I think a lot of black people have been sold on this idea. And that she sponsored a bill funding public school facilities that excluded funding for profit schools. I don't mind the school being for profit. It may cost some more money to go there, but if it's for profit, then everybody is motivated to actually perform. And if you don't perform, you get fired. As opposed to a public school where if a public school underperforms or the teachers underperform, nothing happens to them for the most part because they're under contract. Now, schools can get shut down, but it takes a lot to shut down a school. So this is framed. I think NAACP framed this the way they wanted to frame it, but I don't think it makes the point they think they're making. At least not for anybody who can think. But who knows who's reading these gun laws. All right, here's another one, gun laws. Winston says, the Republican says, loosen the gun laws. Gun control laws infringe on the right to self-defense and deny people a sense of safety. Gun control laws do not deter crime. Rather, it is gun ownership that deters crime. And she supports a strong Second Amendment. How y'all feel about that? How's that sound to y'all? Let me read it again. She said, gun control laws infringe on the right to self-defense and denies people a sense of safety. Gun control laws do not deter crime. Rather, it is gun ownership that deters crime, and she supports the Second Amendment. That sounds good to me. Who has a problem with that? Let's see what the white woman says. Abigail Spanberger says she wants to tighten gun laws. She says she used to be a law enforcement officer, and she carried a gun, so she supports the Second Amendment. But she also believes that common sense gun safety laws are necessary to curb the gun violence epidemic we are facing today. This is nonsense. There is no gun violence epidemic. There's always been gun violence. If you have humans, you're going to have violence. And if you have guns and humans, you're going to have gun violence. Same way you got knife violence and hand-to-hand violence. And even these days, some people even call it verbal violence. I don't agree with that idea, but some people call it that. As long as you got humans, you're going to have violence. So there's no epidemic of violence. And you cannot create laws to legislate out violence because violence is human nature. You can't create a law to legislate human nature. It's impossible. That's why there should be no such thing as a hate speech law because hate is legal and speech is legal. So how are you going to make a law against hating and speech? It doesn't make any sense. But again, different conversation for different days. So they frame this as if this is allegedly helping black people advance. I disagree. Let's see another one. Immigration. Winsome Sears says she wants to make local police cooperate fully with ICE. That's Tom Holman. That's the people getting it undocumented out. She opposes the concept of sanctuary cities. She says every state is a border state, and we are finally deporting criminal, illegal immigrants. That's what the Republican says. Again, this all sounds good to me. Local police cooperate with ICE, who is trying to get people who don't have proper documentation out of the country. She does not like the concept of sanctuary cities. Every state should treat itself like it's a border state. And she wants to get criminal, illegal immigrants out of the country. All of these sound like they're right in line with the actual laws. Let's see what the white woman says. She says, our immigration system is broken. She wants to deal separately with issues of immigration and pharmaceutical tracking. She voted for a pathway to permanent residency for DACA dreamers. Pathway to permanent residency, folks. Notice that language. Kamala Harris vibes. She says ICE raids are not about keeping communities safe. Yes, they are. ICE raids are about finding people who don't belong here and getting them out of there. That's how you keep communities safe. If you don't belong here, you got to get out of here. How is that not about keeping communities safe? But I can go on and on. Y'all go look up this graphic on your own time if you wish to. Now, high-profile Democrats, as we already talked about, such as Barack Obama, they are getting behind Spanberger. And it shows that the party is prioritizing party affiliation over identity optics all of a sudden. Last year, it was the exact opposite. Now, all of a sudden, it's back to party. Now, Democratic ticket also includes other historical firsts on the Virginia side for several other things. Y'all can look into that again on your own time. Now, critics say that the NAACP, I am a critic of the NAACP, other organizations are backing the white woman over the black woman. This is a it betrays this message of representation, and it absolutely does. NAACP says we're about advancing colored people. So if we want to advance colored people according to their frame, we should be trying to get the black woman in as governor, because that would be a historic first black woman. You move a black woman into the governor's mansion. That's a beautiful thing for colored people, according to the frame of the NAACP, which is let's advance black people at all costs. It doesn't even matter what the substance is behind what they're saying. If it's a black person versus a white person, we got to choose the black person. NAACP has been pushing this message for 115 years. Now, all of a sudden, they want to support the white person because the white person happens to be a Democrat. And the NAACP allegedly is bipartisan. NAACP is allegedly an independent organization. These are both lies. Neither one of those is true. And NAACP is a sellout organization, and the black people working for them are sellouts. And the people who represent the NAACP, these people are sellouts. Actually, the organization itself is not a sellout organization because it's run by white people. So they're doing exactly what they're supposed to do. White liberals, that is. Not just white people, white liberals. Now, this race shows that identity politics are being overridden by party strategy. Democrats signaling that keeping the office matters more than aligning with race or gender. That's obvious. And Virginia races are viewed as a bellwether for the 2026 midterms. So a lot of people think that what happens with these races is going to be a preview of what's going to happen in 2026 in the midterms. Maybe. They might be right, might not. Things can change. Things change quickly these days. Now, black voters and activists are saying that the black woman narrative is being selectively applied when it's politically convenient rather than being consistently upheld. And that's obvious. That's obvious right here, this situation. Because just a year ago, you had the alleged black woman, Kamala Harris. Now look at it. Now, Earl Sears is contrasting appeal. She's a black woman, but she's a Republican. So she challenges these assumptions about who represents black interests, shows that identity is not necessarily always about party lines. And again, Barack Obama got exposed here because I'm sure he would have been happy to support Winsome Earl Sears had she been the Democrat and Abigail been the Republican. But now look at him. Now, there are fewer black men that Barack Obama can get in front of and have credibility now. So a lot of people were saying, well, Barack Obama, if Trump tries to run for a third term, Obama will run for a third term. Yeah, okay. Problem is Barack Obama has spent a lot of his capital with black America with the things that he's done over the last 2 years. First of all, telling black men, you got to support Kamala when black men just were not feeling Kamala. And then this one right here was going to get used against him if he ever, next thing he says is going to get used against him. You are supporting the white woman as a Democrat over a black woman when your whole thing is vote for the black person. If he comes out anymore trying to say vote for the black person, somebody's going to throw this in his face. Like, wait a minute, dude, look what you did in Virginia. Now you're talking about support a black person again? What are you really about here? And he's going to look dumb. He's going to be exposed. And he's probably going to have some conversations with his bosses in the Democratic Party about, okay, now y'all just made me do that. I just spent a lot of my capital that I have with black men on that one right there. That one right there, I spent a whole lot of capital. I ain't got that much left. What y'all want me to do? Y'all want me to support the next person who comes out? Now, how do I look? That's what he's going to say to them. They might not give a damn how he looks, but that's what he's got to say. Because this one right here is going to cost Barack Obama a lot, especially if the white woman wins. If Spanberger wins, this actually hurts Barack Obama. If Winsome Sears wins, it still hurts Barack Obama, but maybe not as much. That's just the way I see it for now. Now, this campaign is not just about identity. Spanberger is talking economy, affordability, and jobs, and it's working. Again, about 12% of voters listed anti-Republican sentiment as their main reason. 19% say economy. Most of the time, you want to win an election is the economy, is the money, because everybody needs food, clothing, shelter. That's usually the main thing. Donald Trump did it. Barack Obama did it. And Spanberger's doing it right now. She's beating Winsome on the economy message. Now, again, I'm not even saying whether Spanberger's a better or worse candidate. It's not even the point. I don't even live in Virginia. The point is about the sellout Democrats. So this is a moment to highlight how political parties use identity narratives and they use them opportunistically. So if any of you needed a reason to not trust politicians even further, you're seeing it right here today. Is that they pick and choose which angle they want to use based on what is expedient for them right then in the moment. So for the Democrats, if it's vote for me because I'm black or vote for me because it's a female, vote for this person because it's a female, they'll use that if it works. But if it doesn't and they have to completely ignore what they just told you 6 months ago, they will, as you can see. And again, this is the guy who was president, Barack Obama. So it is hypocritical, but it's also strategic. I understand the game. Priorities prioritize winning elections. I told you the main game of being in politics, you got to win the election. You don't win elections, you ain't in the game. So they got to win the election. And Barack Obama, he got to do what he's told to do. So Democrats win Virginia. It reinforces this idea that affiliation trumps identity. But again, at the expense of some capital that you have, political capital you have with your people, Barack. Now, the messaging around this race may have broader implications because if the black voters are looking at this and saying, oh, the Democratic Party is inconsistent, that could hurt them in 2026. I think it already is. The fact that you already have a Trump administration, the fact that a lot of people just prefer Trump over Kamala regardless of what happens afterwards, that you have a conservative Congress right now, both sides of Congress. I think a lot of black males are no longer preaching loyalty to the Democratic Party, that they're more open to looking at other options, including voting conservatively, voting Republican. Now, black females haven't gone that far yet, but black males, you don't get enough of those votes, you lose. See 2024, Kamala Harris. So it's a show to everybody, and I think it's going to have long-term effects. The 2026 midterms are going to be very interesting because it's really going to be seeing how do people feel about the Trump administration up to that point, which is another year from now. And number two, when it comes to black people specifically, for those of you who care, are black people still just completely loyal to the Democratic Party no matter what? I say they are not. I say they're not. Now, Virginia is just one state, and there are many factors involved in this, but I think a lot of things got shown just through this little bit that we've seen here by your black Democratic leaders. And I don't think there's a bigger name in the Democratic Party right now than Barack Obama. And the NAACP, which allegedly represents black people and is doing its best to help black people advance. I don't agree, but allegedly that's what they're doing, with a bunch of white people running the show. So you tell me what that means. All that said, everyone, let's get into the comments. I'm sure there's some people who do not agree with everything that they heard here today. Some of you who don't agree with anything that you heard here today. You have some things to say. Hopefully you save some of them for me to actually see as when I get to the comments in a minute. And we'll get to use some of our favorite sounds, I think. Strawberry cheesecake. And I think we may get a couple of these today.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Or and one of my favorite, as I take a 90-second restroom break, folks, I'll be right back to get to the comments.
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
Let's get to it. Over on YouTube, Tim C 1961 says NAACP is a nonprofit and cannot endorse anyone, but we know that they do. Yes, they do it without doing it. And it says Obama also endorsed Abrams for governor of GA, but won't support Winsome and Earl Sears just because Abrams is a Democrat. So I understand. ROI Vlog said very hard agree. Thank you. Motto Green says Sears loves home. What does that mean? It says Sears maybe not MAGA yet. This sister talks real values, not Chicago mayor fact. Well, Chicago mayor, we already talked about him a lot. Not a fan of Chicago mayor. but I don't live in Chicago. So let's see what we got going on over on TikTok. Coming to you all. We already had 100,000 likes here today. Appreciate it, everybody. Susie Lareden said, many quotes are taken out of context. Do your research unless you don't want to know the truth. All the quotes are taken out of context. Not many, all of them. 100%. That's why the graphic is nonsense, but that's the NAACP. They do have a lot of influence. That's why I'm pointing it out. Duke said, why would the left be against making voting more honest? That's a good question, Duke's mom. You tell me why. They don't want to have voter ID laws. The frame that they've used is that, Leah, thank you for the lightning bolts. The frame that they have used is that if you have voter ID, there's a whole bunch of black people, disenfranchised black and brown people who don't have access to ID. It's hard for them to get ID. Therefore, you're basically blocking them from voting. This is a nonsense frame, but they have sold a lot of black people on the concept that this must be true because they just said that. They just said, oh, well, if you have voter IDs and a bunch of black people can't vote. What black person has trouble getting access to an ID? And the real reason why they want to do it is because they want to have people who are not registered to vote and don't have proper ID able to vote. That's the real reason they want to do it. And they believe they have more on their side than the Republicans have on their side. Therefore, if you allow anyone to vote, then the Democrats feel like they have more of an advantage. Connie Moore said, we need voter ID for sure. If not, then why do we need a driver's license to drive? Yes. Very logical point, Connie, but you got to understand that these arguments that politicians make are not logical because they're not talking to logical people. Karina, thank you for the GOAT. Angela Yost, thank you for the follow. Fantastic said, I'm Canadian. We use ID to vote. It's not harder. Yes, we all know that. Fantastic, we know. We know it's not harder to vote if you force ID. What it does is make voting more honest. And the Democratic Party does not want to make voting honest because they can get an advantage if it's not honest. And you want to see an example of that, think back to an election that happened a few years ago. I'm not going to say too much more. I want to get banned from TikTok again. Mia, thank you for the lightning bolts. Karen Beauty Guru said, thank you for going over this. I live in Virginia and this helps. Well, you're welcome. Not sure it's going to change the outcome of the election, though. It looks like Spanberger's going to win. This is only a few days away, if these polls are to be believed. And there was several polls I was looking at. She's winning in all of them. Retired again. Thank you for the share. Dean Dangerous said, black activist, a 33-year congressman. He was still an activist. You can be a congressman and an activist at the same time. Brooke Martella thinks, well, good to see you in here, actually. You didn't do anything. Ricky said, isn't this guy a Trump supporter? No, I'm a supporter of objectivity and logical thinking. And I didn't even mention Donald. I barely mentioned Donald Trump here today. Why are people bringing up Trump? E.B. Frazier said, let's discuss Sears' platform. I bet you won't. The conversation today is not about either one of their platforms. It's not about their platforms. It's about black Democrats who usually say vote black because they're black, now saying vote for the white person, even though there's a black option. That's what the conversation is about. It's not about the platform of either candidate.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Planet Piss says, hey, Canadian, you only have 41 million people, 10% of the U.S. We had to do things differently. That's a non sequitur. That's not the reason why we do things differently.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
As far as voter ID goes, that doesn't mean we need to do anything different than what Canada does. EB said, has had a lead since the beginning. Yeah, I know. Nana said, like they said about Kamala, she lost bigly. What did they say? Me and Lisa said, do you believe in God? Yes. Brian said, this is your representation of a house he is promoting. Negativity against his own race. So sad. Huh?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
That's also a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
So congratulations to you for the first ad hominem and the first straw man of the day, Brian DC. Bet said, most Republicans vote on Tuesday. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, that's kind of, you could say that, you go look back at 2016 and say that's possible. But these are polls, not votes that are in. These are polls looking at likely voters and what are they thinking they're going to do. So the solace that Republican voters can take is that maybe the people who are answering those polls are more Democrat voters, or Republicans are answering, but they're lying and saying who they're going to vote for. So we'll see what happens on election night. Absolutely. Mark B says she's Jamaican. Yeah, well, allegedly so was Kamala Harris, and then she passed for black, then Winston Sears passed for black. So I'm not doing quote unquote black every time, but when I say it, that's what I mean. If a person has brown skin and everybody's calling them black, then I'm saying black for the sake of the conversation. Even Kamala Harris. And I did a whole album on Kamala Harris's blackness. Shay said, I can't take this many lies this early in the morning. That's a straw man.
Strawberry
If I lied about something, point out the lie. Instead of saying what you said, just point out the lie. Jeff, thanks for the follow. Dean Dangerous said, not teaching the history of racism in America is a good thing. Straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
First of all, neither candidate, when it came to that question of racism by the NAACP's graphic, neither one of them was directly answering a question. What the NAACP did, and this is the verbal sleight of hand, and it clearly worked on you, is they pulled quotes from both people talking about racism when it comes to education, and they just put it in their graphic and said, well, this person is saying no, and here's a quote of them saying something that supports the no, and here's the person saying yes, and here's a quote of them supporting the yes, when neither one of them was answering a direct question anyway. So this is the verbal sleight of hand when people can just pull anything that they get, any quote, and then they can say, well, here's the frame around the quote, and here's what you should believe about each person based on the quote that we pulled out of nowhere that has nothing to do with them being asked a direct question, because neither one of them was. So Dean Dangerous is obviously either worked on you or you understand exactly what's happening and you're trying to throw gas on the fire. I think it's probably about 80% the first, 20% the latter. But congrats on the straw man. Stephen Albert, thanks for the heart. Brian said, how am I closed-minded when you have African-American man coming against his own? Well, first of all, Brian DC, I'm assuming that you're white, saying an African-American man. First of all, I'm not African. I'm not from Africa at all. My parents are not from Africa. And let's see. So I got a warning from TikTok that said misinformation that may cause moderate harm. What did I say? What misinformation did I give that may cause moderate harm? I don't know what that was. I'm just taking a quick picture of this. Moderate harm. What is moderate harm, TikTok? What the hell does that even mean? I got to submit feedback for this. And yeah, I don't know what they're talking about. Maybe somebody reported me in the middle of this live. But Brian, going back to you, I am not African at all. I am Black American, and coming against his own, I'm assuming that, again, you are not Black. You're unqualified to tell a Black person how they're supposed to talk, the same way that I, as a Black person, am unqualified to tell you how to talk, regardless of who you want to talk about. Now, assuming, Brian, that you're white, if you have something negative to say about a white person, let's say you had something negative to say about Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or Donald Trump, could I come to you and say, hey, you're white, how you going against your own? Wouldn't even sound right, right? So who are you to tell a Black person what they're allowed to say? And if they have something to say that is negative towards somebody who also happens to be Black, they got a right to do that. Just same way that you as a white person has a right to have whatever opinion that you want. So this is a loaded comment that you're making, number one. It's a straw man, number two.
Strawberry cheesecake.
It's a ad hominem, number three.
Is that like a personal attack or something?
It's also a non sequitur because there's no connection here. You as a white person telling a Black person how they're supposed to be talking. You're out of your mind.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
And because of that, you get the Russell Westbrook. Even though you have 4, you get the triple-double award, first triple-double award of the day.
Oh, baby, a triple. Oh, yeah.
Dean Danger says she wants more cops. Me too. I want more cops. I want more cops. EB said, not allegedly, she said it. Well, I'm saying allegedly because the quotes are pulled out of context. You don't have the context of the full quote. It's like one sentence. And again, what was she responding to when she said it? NAACP's graphic says, here's the question. And then they pull a quote from wherever they got it and say, here's this person's position. But it's not in response to the direct question because they didn't ask, the NAACP did not ask each of these candidates a question. They didn't do a debate with the NAACP as a moderator. So they just pulled any quote and then they framed it yes or no around that issue by pulling any quote that they wanted to make it look a certain way. Maybe she says something about fewer cops also, but they didn't pull that quote. They just used the one that helps them frame the situation they want to frame it, the way they want to frame it. Again, that's why it's a verbal sleight of hand. And again, many of you are not logically inclined enough to understand that it's a verbal sleight of hand, and or because you don't like her anyway, you're willing to go along with it and co-sign it, but that is incorrect. That's a loaded comment. It's also a non sequitur.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
That's why what the NAACP put out is nonsense. Because it is not an answer to a direct question. They put the question up and then they pulled any quote they want to say this is their answer to the question. But they didn't ask them the question. Stephen Albert, thanks for the Go Popular. Dean says a voucher program and very literally, well, that's not what we're talking about. Angela Yost said, thank you for clarifying. You're welcome. Dean Dangerous said Virginia schools are actually amazing. Every single one of them for every single student, every single parent. I would beg to differ. Young Hungry said they're already saying the quiet part out loud. Why are you still caping for them?
Is that like a personal attack or something?
Who is they that you're talking about? And how am I caping for anybody? Who are you talking about? Brian said he's been negative against African Americans since he started, yet he doesn't bring his views. Well, I bring my views every day. Why do you think these lives take so long? And again, you keep using these terms about African Americans as if you are qualified to speak for African Americans. You are not.
Emotional, damn it.
And also, I'm not African. I'll say for the fifth time. Young Hungry said they're receiving public funds. They are now required to be public. Who is they? Y'all gotta be careful with these pronouns. I don't know what you're talking about. EB said you don't know education in VA. What do I have to know about education in VA? I'm reading the graphic and giving you the frame of the graphic. I don't have to be in VA, work in education, or even have a kid in school or live in the state in order to respond to what is being said in the graphic. Again, this is logical reasoning here, folks. So you got to step your logical game up. I don't have to know education. I don't know what you think you have that qualifies you as quote unquote knowing education. But if you really did, EB Frazier, why are you not doing your own live and explaining it to people rather than leaving comments in my live stream?
Have some more chicken. Have some more pie. It doesn't matter if it's boiled or fried.
CC Ruiz said this feels like a psyop. LOL. Well, CC, everything is a psyop. Everything is a psychological operation because you got to process it through your brains in psychologically in order to decide what to do with it. Young Hungry said you're uninformed about the topics you are teeing up. No, I'm not. If I'm uninformed, then tell me what I got wrong. Again, so when any of you comes with these indirect responses,
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
saying that you're lying or that you're wrong or you have misinformation, but you're not actually pointing out what I got wrong, then you get this one.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Susie said, love Winsome Sears and the Second Amendment. Tiffany said, we can't lower the standard to make it look like schools aren't failing. Public schools have been failing all across the United States. Now, are there pockets of places where public schools are good? Of course. Are there good public schools out there? Absolutely. Are there good teachers out there? Of course. But public schools as a general entity, public schools are not that good. Doesn't mean you can't find a great one for your kid. Scarlett said, all he's doing is presenting facts. Well, I'm presenting facts and I'm giving you my theories and opinions on the facts at the same time. I'm giving you all at the same time. Facts, opinions, theories, and frames all at once. Bree Goddess, thank you for the share. Terrell said, common sense gun laws, what does that mean? That's a very good question, Terrell. They don't tell you what it means. They just want you to vote for them by calling it common sense gun laws, which basically is them saying their version of common sense, which might be different from your version of common sense. They just call it that because it makes it seem like they only have to say that to make sure they're drawing a stark contrast between someone who says we don't want more gun laws. We want everyone to be able to carry a gun and fully use the Second Amendment because that is what keeps people safe. All you got to say is we want some kind of laws around guns because it's a stark enough contrast to the people who don't want more laws around guns. So you don't even have to articulate exactly what that means. The problem with gun laws is that as those laws get stricter and stricter, things people have to understand about laws is that they rarely get revoked or repealed. Once a law goes into place and it constricts, it only gets more and more constricting over time. And eventually, if we keep making gun laws, starting with quote unquote common sense gun laws, eventually Americans won't be able to have guns as much as they want. And that could lead to, this is a slippery slope, but it could lead to the government getting a little bit out of control because they know people don't have guns. You all remember the virus from a few years ago. The reason why the places where those virus mandates and laws got lifted first in the United States of America were the red voting areas. Why? Because people in red voting areas are Second Amendment abiders. They carry guns. Therefore, the authorities could not enforce laws such as stay in your house, wear masks, stand 6 feet apart, get the jab. They couldn't enforce them in those areas because people had guns, and there are not enough cops or military to enforce them against people who have guns. Whereas in other countries, you look at the Australias and New Zealands of the world where people don't have weapons. Did you see what they did during the time of that virus? Do you see the way those people were living? It's not because of who their politicians are. It's not because they are smarter or dumber. It's not because the virus was stronger or weaker in those areas. It's because people didn't have people didn't have the ability to enforce their desires on the government. They could not impose their will on the government over there. And that's why the government imposed its will on the people, because the people couldn't push back. The reason why we had the Second Amendment, ladies and gentlemen, is not about a violence epidemic or any of that nonsense. We have the Second Amendment to keep the government in check. That is the reason why the Second Amendment exists. So any of you who is in favor of quote unquote common sense gun laws, whatever the hell that means to you, you really need to think about the downstream effects of that. The purpose of the Second Amendment is to keep the government in check and keep them from getting out of hand, because they know that it is more of us than it is them. And if they get out of hand, there's going to be a problem because people have weapons. You take the weapons out of people's hands, the government can do whatever the hell they want. Again, look at the virus and look at the countries where people don't have weapons. Look how they had to live. That's what happens. User said, deport Trump. It's weird. Karina said, sounds pretty common sense to me. Which point were you referring to? Barbie 007. Good morning. 0007. Connie said, I agree with Sears. On all the things that they pulled, NAACP pulled, I agree with Sears on all the stuff that they shared. But again, they're sharing one or two sentences that, again, where these sentences even come from. That's why I don't even like the graphic. But it's very convincing to people who don't understand how the game is played. Karen Louise, thanks for the follow. Brian said, facts about what all I'm hearing is a bully. That's all I'm hearing. I don't even know what you're referring to. You just said Trump's bloodline is illegal. Why are people always bringing up Donald Trump? He's not even the topic. Susie said, my parents were naturalized and worked their whole life. Deport illegals, no amnesty. Well, that's why we got Tom Homan. That's what they're doing right now. So they're doing that right now. Fantastic. Good morning. Steven said, that's what every state needs for leadership. Connie said, I'm independent, but I have to lean more conservative this time. Fair enough. The ramblings of me and myself. Thanks for the follow. User said Mexicans are more American than Americans. What does that even mean? Connie said, I feel like the left works on people's emotions instead of facts. Well, that works. I mean, you got to understand how the game of politics works, is that you're talking to the masses of people, and the masses are more swayed by emotion than logic. Frank said, I guess us citizens or U.S. citizens don't do harm to others. That's a straw man.
Strawberry cheesecake.
Also an appeal to emotion.
Emotional, damn it.
U.S. citizens can do harm to others. What does that have to do with getting a person who does not have proper documentation out of the country? So that also makes it a non sequitur.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
So, Frank, congratulations on the second Russell Westbrook triple-double. Word of the day.
Triple. Oh, yeah.
Marie Metcalf, thank you for the share. Connie said, not what politicians push because they're always going to work for their agenda, not ours. Well, all politicians, yes. Floyd Palmer said, do you support non-police personnel acting as police officers violating even Americans' rights? Non-police personnel? Who? Who are you talking about? What personnel? Tim the Patriot said, Democrats believe in lawless society which puts citizens in danger. Well, I can understand that frame. I mean, I don't think that's the full thing they believe, but they're heading in that direction. I get what you're saying. Fantastic said, you're speaking pure facts. Well, thank you. Scarlett said, for anything we say that you don't agree with, even if it's facts, your name calling starts. Are you saying me? I didn't name call anybody. I'm pointing out logical fallacies, but I haven't called anybody a name. Karina said, why are they bending the knee? Who's threatening them? Who are you talking about? Fantastic. Thanks for the follow. Connie said, everybody wants to be a right fighter, so we just ignore facts. It's ridiculous. Well, the thing is, facts can be pulled out of context. So it's not really about facts. A bunch of you are mentioning the word facts in the comments here today. It's not really about facts. Facts don't matter as much as they used to. Because, again, you can pull a fact out of context to tell any story that you want. And you can leave out facts to not tell any story that you don't want to tell. Floyd said, all skin folk ain't our folk, Clarence Thomas. Well, I know a lot of black people like to use that line as a way of discrediting any black person who you disagree with. But what about Clarence Thomas? Why are you bringing up Clarence Thomas's name? And if someone is of the same color of you but has a different opinion than you, and your first response to them is to try to discredit their very existence simply because you disagree with them, that's actually a very immature frame rather than actually addressing them on the points with which you disagree. So your issue is not about skin folk and kinfolk. It's about your lack of logic and lack of emotional maturity.
Emotional, damn it.
Marcus said, gonna need a shitload of cheesecake today. Yeah, we already gave out a bunch. We're already on our second cheesecake. Amber said, you really think if a Dem, regardless of race, wins, it will hurt them? Genuinely curious. Hurt who? Hurt Barack? Well, it's already going to hurt Barack Obama because he came out and did this just a year after what he did for Kamala. So he already looks very hypocritical. I know why he's being hypocritical because this is the game that he's in. But he still looks hypocritical. So it looks like he just does whatever he's told to do, which undermines the credibility that he had because the frame around Barack Obama was that he was just this very smart, very intelligent guy who was just able to momentum his way to the presidency, win 2 terms, and he's a really smart and articulate guy who just knows his stuff. Now it looks like he is exactly who he is, was a puppet for the Democratic Party. So it hurts him regardless of who wins, Amber. Robin asked a question about Donald Trump. What does Donald Trump have to do with anything that we're talking about here today?
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy. Okay.
Anna C said, I voted him the first time, but learned by the second, voted different next time. Fair enough. Floyd said, voting is about voting for your interests. Republicans care not about you nor I. Well, first of all, no politician cares about anybody. So voting is not about really your interests because none of your interests are going to be served by a politician. So your frame, I understand people like to say this over and over again. So Floyd, sounds like you're pretty well versed in cliches, but voting for your interests. Tell me what interest of yours has been served by voting. Who did you vote for and how they serve your interests? You probably couldn't answer the question because the government is so slow and bloated and bureaucratic that even if a politician promises they're going to do something, they usually don't get around to doing it in the time they're even in office. Voting is about you picking the person that you like, but your interest is not about who you vote for. Your interest is about what you do on a daily basis at your job, in your community, with your family. If you really care about your interests, it's not voting that's going to get it done. Because all voting is you going into a ballot box and checking a ballot booth or checking a box or pushing a button or pulling a lever. That's a very little amount of effort, and your interest is probably requires a big amount of output. And in economics, one of the fundamental laws of economics is no such thing as something for nothing. So any of you who believes that if you vote, that's going to serve your interests, you are already being fooled. You're already thinking like a child because that little bit of effort for this much outcome does not exist in the universe. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You're not going to get all your interests served just because you went and checked the box for a politician. So Floyd, again, you're good at reciting the cliches, but they're based in childish logic.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. You're not that guy.
Connie said, absolutely. Either side, they just push their agenda. Pretty much. Daniel said, how's the opportunity going now that Snap is canceled? Well, it's as of the end of the day today, so not quite yet. We talked about that earlier this week. And I don't know what opportunity you're talking about. I'm not on Snap, so I don't know what your question is based on. Floyd said, like you're doing what you were told to do. You saying to me? I was told to do? I'm an entrepreneur. I own a business, Floyd. There's a human on this planet who can tell me what to do. Please say their name. Jamie Conley, thanks for the share. Monica Lynn said, soundboard going to be busy this morning. Yes, it is. I like using the soundboard. Alf, thanks for the follow. Karina said the black vote moved on. They wanted to replace them with illegals. Well, it's not over. You're saying that as if it's the past tense. The game's not over yet. 2028 looms. Connie said, I totally agree with your views on the NAACP. But NAACP is a white-owned organization with black faces at the front of it. And that's just a fact. That's not even my view. That's just a fact. XCR says, does my son have on his costume? I don't know. I started my live before he woke up this morning, so I have no idea. Lee, thanks for the lightning bolt. Another lightning bolt. Thank you, Lee, for keeping the lights going and the gift gallery lit up. I appreciate you. Cedric says, spend time blocking people in bots. I don't really like blocking people. I don't like blocking people on social media. On any platform. I'm not a fan of blocking. I will engage if somebody says something. I'll respond in these comments here. But if somebody's just saying something dumb, then I just won't say anything. Eventually, people just stop saying stuff. They're not getting any engagement. So, no, I don't really like blocking. I even tell my moderators, don't block anybody. If somebody's being really crazy, you can mute them for the day, but don't block them. Cedric said, you don't release time in history. Democrats, October, working people. Cedric, what the hell does that even mean? Karina said, why are these companies bending the knee? What's companies? Laura says statistics matter. They do, but statistics are facts. And the problem with facts is that you can pull facts out of context. You can also leave facts out of context. That's the problem with statistics, data, and facts these days. That it's very easy to just pull the facts that you want to use and ignore the ones that you don't. And so you can tell any story you want by picking and choosing which facts you want to share. Connie said, what I mean by facts, and maybe I'm wrong, is what really happened as opposed to how you spin it. Well, it's actually, they're both the same thing, Connie. They're not in opposition to each other. What really happened, you can pull out a fact. So, for example, I can say this morning in South Florida, it was 60 degrees. I can also say that in South Florida, it is normally warm, and it's a warm and humid climate, warm and humid tropical climate. Now, 60 degrees and kind of cool and arid is not warm, humid, and tropical. But it is factually true that it was that this morning. But is that representative of the normal weather in South Florida? The answer is no. But did it factually happen? Yes, it did. So I'm using that as a very raw, basic example. But it's very easy to pull any fact out of context and say, hey, this is factually true. It happened. Look at this. And it did happen. But is that representative of the normalcy of the situation? It doesn't have to be for it to still be factually true. And that's how you can lie with facts. It's very easy to lie with facts and data and statistics. And when people don't understand this is how they're easily fooled by facts, data, and statistics that have been pulled out of context. Even quotes, they get pulled out of context. Christopher said, Trump is responsible for everything. That's what everyone thinks. So silly. Yes, sir. Hey, no, people can't stop talking about Trump even when Trump's not the topic. Rita said, thank you, everybody, for keeping the lights going and the comments rolling. Yes, I agree. Thank you, everyone. Just good morning. How are you? How are you?
Good.
Good. Where's your costume?
What costume?
Oh, well, there you go. Everybody wanted to know if my son had his costume on. He said, what costume? So he doesn't know what we're talking about. So what costume? That's the answer to the question. How are you? Did you have breakfast?
Yeah.
How was it?
No. Not breakfast. No breakfast.
You didn't eat breakfast?
No.
Are you going to?
No.
No? You're not going to eat?
No.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Tracy Bonnet West said exactly. Mr. Alton, please stop spamming my comments with the same posts. That's not the thing you keep asking is not even a question, but don't spam my comments. If you spam my comments, you're going to get kicked out. Dr. B818 said, clear thinking. That's why I listen to this, man. Well, I appreciate it. Cedric said, I will try to make better points. The challenge to your comment, Cedric, was not that you didn't make a good point, is that I didn't grammatically understand what you were saying. It's not about the quality of your point. It's about the quality of your grammar. I didn't understand what you were saying. Connie says, so my comment about facts, how do you resolve that? You resolve it by, you have to be able to break down and explain what someone is using contextomy. And contextomy meaning pulling something out of context to try to make an argument, and the audience doesn't realize that you're lying to them by pulling things out of context. So people just have to get better at realizing that a fact can be pulled out of context. Most people don't understand that. So when they hear that something is a fact, they assume that that must be the whole story. That's often not the case. So that's how you resolve it, is just people just have to get better at logical thinking. And most people are not logical thinkers. Dr. B said, I'm stunned how such honest logic can have a positive influence. Well, good. Don't be stunned. I appreciate the compliment, though. Karina said, I've seen pancake recipe videos turn into a Trump combo. People are insufferable. This is a topic because everybody has an opinion. So I understand why people talk about it. Mr. Alton said, can someone please pin my question? Hell no, we're not pinning that question. Mr. Alton, stop posting that same question. Huh? No, you can't have that ball because I told you can't be throwing it around, and you had a hard time listening yesterday. So no, you cannot have that ball. No. CW says, sea turtles, my favorite. Love your son's shirt. I didn't even notice the sea turtles. Marlo says, very handsome. Thank you. XTR says, he's going trick-or-treating. We'll see. To be determined. The heck say, you're such a good father. Thank you. Mr. Alton said, I didn't think you saw my question. I saw your question. You posted it like 10 times. You don't have to post a question more than once. I see it. I'm looking straight through the comments. G Black, thank you for the lightning bolt. Connie Moore said, makes sense. Thank you for your answer. Karina said, just like people thinking Trump was trying for a third term when he's always only joked. Yeah, he keeps talking about it because he knows people are going to keep talking about him every time he says it. And Trump likes staying in the news cycle if people haven't noticed. Donald Trump likes getting attention on himself, which you need to do if you're a politician running for president. You can't get attention, you can't win. Gail Greenho, thanks for the share. She'll said he made him cry. Yeah, I don't know if those are real tears. I heard the sound, I didn't see any tears. J. Rocker said, stand firm, hate my wife gives in after they cry. Well, he's asking me for something that nobody else has control over, so there will be no giving in. Laura, thank you for the rose. Dr. B said, did you find evidence that both political sides we are all in it together? Did I find evidence? I wasn't looking for any evidence. I think politicians there are some people who say that they're all playing the same game, and there are many ways that is true, and there are many ways where it's not true, such as the governor's race. Only one of them can win. Tina said, I'm worried about my state, though, Virginia. What are you worried about? Why? XCR said, Trump knows how to push people's buttons. Yes, he does. It's one of the reasons. That's the reason why he dominates. He's dominated the political news cycle for literally 10 years straight. And even the Democrats, every time they talk, they're talking about him. So he's done a good job of that. So over on YouTube, we got a few more comments. Darling USA on Rumble said, Winsome Sears could be purple, and I still would love her. Well, you better go out and vote for her if you live in Virginia, because she's down right now. Darling said, I was raised in VA. My sister lives there. She's an elderly white woman. Is excited to vote for Sears. I use the descriptions only because it's been made to matter in this time. Yeah, they're gonna need her. Darling, thank you. Appreciate that. And also Motto Green. I see you over there on YouTube as well. Let's see. Michelle, good morning. Leah, thank you for the witchy kitty. Tina said, people never vote consistently, never really getting anything accomplished. Well, again, my frame that I give to all American citizens, if you want something to happen where you live, if you really want something to happen where you live, the person responsible for that is not the politician, it's you. It's the person in the mirror. You have to take ownership. I did a whole live stream on this last year. Who should you vote for in the election? And I did honest discussions where I did 2 lives back to back. I did one that said why you should vote for Kamala. Not why you should vote for her. I said why Kamala will win is actually what I said. I did a 3-hour live stream why Kamala is going to win. If she wins, I basically explained why she would win if she does. Then the very next day, I did another one. I said why Trump's going to win. If he wins, here's why he would win. So that people understand I can argue both sides of the conversation. Then I did a live where I said who you should vote for. And the frame of that conversation is not telling you which candidate to pick. The frame of it is if you really want some change to occur in your life, you must take ownership of that change. Do not wait on a politician. And further, if you are going to go the political route in voting, then you need to look at your local elections, not the federal elections. Governor is kind of in the middle. It is technically local, but it's more local like your mayors, your city council people. These are the people who you can actually talk to, and they will actually hear you. You can actually get them on the phone. They will actually read your letters and your emails, and you could actually have a direct conversation with these people. You can go to the meetings and you can say something, and they literally be listening to you talk right to their faces. It's kind of hard with the governor, maybe even with the mayor, depending on the size of the city that you live in. But your city council people, these people are voting on real things and making real things happen that you feel the direct effects of in a short period of time. If you want to get involved politically, you need to look at those people, the local folks, not the president. The president ain't doing shit that's really going to affect you. All the president does is give you stuff to talk about. Stuff the president does not really making that much of a direct effect. There may be effects of people talking. There may be effects that you think are coming from the president, but they're often what we call lagging. Lagging indicators, things that happen way after the thing that caused it. So the effect happens way after the cause. So people say, well, hey, the economy's doing great right now. It's because of Trump. Maybe. But it could be because something happened 5 years ago, and now we're just getting the effect of it because it's affecting 300 million people. Or the economy's doing terrible is because of Trump. Maybe. But it's often because of something that happened several years ago that we're now finally seeing the results of it. So those are called lagging indicators. You get the result way after the thing that caused it. It's like if somebody gets lung cancer when they're 70 years old, it's not because of the cigarette you smoked yesterday. It's because of the ones you've been smoking for the last 40 years. But you just got cancer today. So a lot of people don't understand that because, again, most people are not logical thinkers. Most people think correlation and causation are always connected, that they conflate correlation with causation. Just because something happened yesterday and you got a result today means that this result is because of what you did yesterday. No. It's like somebody with big muscles. You don't got big muscles today because you lifted weights yesterday. You have big muscles today because you've been lifting weights for years. And now we see the result of it. Same thing with somebody who's out of shape. It's not because you didn't work out yesterday. It's because you haven't been working out for a decade. That's why you're out of shape. And people get all excited about the politicians, especially the federal level politicians, as if they're causing your situation. They ain't causing shit. You're causing your situation. But a lot of people don't want to hear that because it puts the onus on you. See, if we're talking about politicians, we can just sit here and talk. But if the onus is on you, now you got to actually do something. And most human beings are lazy. They don't want to do something. So they rather blame it on or depend on the politician. That's a losing proposition because politicians don't have the power, first of all, to do things directly for you. Secondly, even if they say they will, they can't always get it done through our system of checks and balances. And third, even if they do, as I just explained, it's often a lagging indicator. A president doing something that is designed to help you, you might not feel the effect of that thing. Even if they did it, you might not feel the effect of it for 2.5 years because that's how long it takes for it to trickle down to you. This is the reason why I'm not in politics, folks. So any of you want to know why I'm not in politics, it's because of this. Because none of this would ever win me an election. Because basically I'm telling you, I'm not here to save your situation. So why would you vote for me? All my opponents are going to do is act like they're going to save you. So everybody will vote for them. The average person would not vote for me because I'm putting all the responsibility in your lap. So nobody's going to vote for me. So any of you always want to know, any of you ever ask me would I ever get involved in politics? I would. If I did, actually, I would be out just as soon as I got in. Because as soon as anybody who was thinking about donating money to my campaign heard me say something like what you just heard, they would say, I'm not giving any money to this guy. He ain't going to win. No way he's going to win talking like that. Why would I burn my money up by giving it to him? Because you donate money, you give money to a political candidate so you can buy some access. So when they win, they can do stuff for you. But if you don't think they're going to win, why would you give them money? So I would never get any money. So I probably couldn't even run a campaign because you don't spend your own money. Leah, thank you for the gifts. Michelle, thanks for the hand hearts. Connie said, I agree because the mayors and city councilmen may be your future president. So possibly, but that's not the reason, Connie. The reason is not because they might become president, because by the time they become president, the stuff that they're doing is not really affecting you. It's pay attention to the city councilmen and the mayors because what they do right now can directly affect you like next month. That's why you pay attention to them, not because of where they might go in the future. A lot of politicians who are at the local level stay at the local level. Most of them are not. They're not all advancing up the ladder of politics. Some of them get in, they do something for a few years and they get out. Some of them get in and they stay there in that same level their entire careers. Most of them are not these aspirational. Most human beings are not ambitious. They're not trying to aspire and move up. They get to a certain level and they stay there. And that includes politicians. They're not special or different. Average person is like that. Politicians are like that. Darling said, this is my first introduction to you. I didn't just move on because there's something about you that rings true. Well, I appreciate it. You're right about that. I agree. Tina says, I always vote. Our state will just vote indifferent than the ballot. What does that mean? Dr. B said the coordinated collapses. Coordinated collapses. So you're talking about the World Trade Center. Establishes a projected narrative. Well, I get what you're saying. Definitely Building 7, Dr. B818. I definitely agree with you on Building 7. And that doesn't establish that the projected narrative is inaccurate. What it establishes is that you should not blindly accept the projected narrative. I would just change around what you're saying. I get the direction of what you're saying. I would just change that around a little bit. And we could jump forward to 2020. Forget about 9/11. That was 2001. What about 2020? It was just 5 years ago. Leah said, I love TikTok Live. Or you sent, I love TikTok Live. Thank you. Tina said, example, Myers over Jones, but Spanberger up over Sears. Yeah, well, I haven't gotten deep into the Democratic thing, but I get what you're saying. XTR said, most don't even know they're city council members. Yes, you're correct. I couldn't name most of my city council members, but if I wanted to get involved politically, i.e. as a citizen, and I wanted my voice to be heard, It's not about Donald Trump or Kamala Harris. It'd be about me going to a city council meeting. As a matter of fact, I am a resident of Miami Beach. I get the emails from Miami Beach council people all the time. So a few of them I do know because they send emails out all the time talking about new parks that got open, and we're going to have this meeting on this day, and we're going to be discussing this, and you can get on a Zoom call or you can come to the meeting. And they're always sending that out because they battle. They battle each other over stuff. Like, we're going to have this ordinance, or we're going to make people stop selling alcohol at 2 a.m. and all this stuff. But they directly reach out to you by email and tell you exactly what's going on. They tell you how to come to the meeting, and you will see these people at CVS. You'll see them at Walgreens. You'll see them at the grocery store. Their kids go to the same schools that you go to. The city council people are on that level. Federal people, you're never going to see them. They live in mansions. The city council people live in their own houses. They don't live in no mansions. They live in their regular house. Might be right down the street from you. Barbie said, I already voted early in Miami. All right, that's what's up. Shout out to people who voted early. Connie, thanks for joining the fan club. User says, so true. Vote locally to make the changes you want. Yes, that's the game, is voting locally. Barbie said, people don't understand how important it is to vote locally. No, they don't. Most people don't pay attention to local because it's not on TV or on the internet. But the local ones are the ones that really affect your schools, your neighborhoods, your communities, the police, all that. If you care, it's the local elections. We're going to wrap this up in a couple minutes, folks. Mr. Alton said, I will vote for you if you did get in politics. Well, thank you. I get a bunch of people saying that to me on TikTok. The problem is on TikTok, there's only a few thousand of you. I think on TikTok I got like 23,000 followers as of today. So even if all my followers voted for me, that's still not enough votes. So I don't know how I'm going to win. And all y'all are spread out. So it had to be a federal election. So 23,000 votes ain't enough. You got to have more support than that to even get on the ballot, let alone to win. So we need more people. So TikTok, put me on the FYP more so I can get more support. But I appreciate it, Mr. Alton. Connie Moore said, you're right. I don't think about it that way. Well, I appreciate that. I'm glad it was useful information. Barb said, you're right about local voting. That's how I got my road paved, by going to the meeting. Exactly. So what Barb S says right here, if you all want to see real change happen, change that you can actually see, that actually affects you in your everyday life, you go to your city council meeting and you make some noise and say, hey, the traffic light down the street from my house has not been working for 3 weeks and nobody is fixing it. Or that stop sign that got knocked down by a car accident 3 months ago. Somebody needs to fix that stop sign. Or there's a pothole on the road between my house and my job and that pothole needs to be filled. You will actually get it fixed. It will actually get fixed because that person can actually hear you. They know you're part of the community and they can actually do something tomorrow to solve the problem that you brought up. You go bitching about Donald Trump, he ain't going to do nothing. You know how many people are talking about him every day? Hundreds of millions of people. He doesn't have time to hear all those messages, so he can't respond to you. But your city councilman can literally respond to you. You can shake their hand and you can literally have a real conversation about some real things that you want done. But that requires those of you listening, that requires you to really be serious about making change happen. See, you're talking about Donald Trump and Kamala Harris and Barack Obama. This is just conversation. I'm just using this as content. Do I think any of them is going to do anything based on what I say? No. There's a million people talking about them every day. They don't have time to hear everything. But your local city council person, if I went to one of those meetings and said something to them, they would hear me. And they would say, okay, who's this guy? Okay, what do you have to say? And they would really listen. So that's where the real change happens, at the local level, folks. Dr. B said, those who didn't see 9/11 didn't see 2020. This is correct. And some people weren't alive for 9/11. You got to remember, some people, they were alive, but they were very young. So there are people listening to this right now who were born in like 1995. So they were kids. They don't know anything about that. Now, those of us who were young adults or grown adults when the time of 9/11 happened, we can remember that. But everybody remembers 2020. That was just 5 years ago. So it's a more contemporary example. John, you found me on FYP. Shout out to TikTok for that. Okay, everybody, we're going to wrap this one up. I'll give you all one thing y'all can get from me is my book, The Third Day. The Decision Separates the Pros from the Amateurs. This book is free. We just ask that you cover the shipping. I will give you the book free. This book is all about how you show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. All of you are professionals. All of you have days when you don't really feel like being at work. You don't really feel like doing your job. How do you show up and deliver on those days? That day is what we call the third day. I created a whole framework about this. This book is not a motivational book. This book is about a strategy and a system for you to show up and give your best effort when you least feel like it. That discipline builds confidence. Confidence leads to performance. Performance leads to results. Results to rewards. Get this book free by going to thirddaybook.com. Just tell us where to send it. Just cover the shipping. We will send you the book. Thirddaybook.com. This is a physical book I will send to you. Just cover the shipping. Thirddaybook.com, or just send a text to the number in my profile to the number 3. My number is 305-384-6894. I'll put that number in the comments on a couple of these apps. The number is 305-384-6894. If you send a text to that number and just text the number 305-384-6894, you will get, let me see if I can put a comment over here on TikTok. The funny thing about TikTok, you can't pin your own comments. They won't let me pin my own comments. And even if you do pin a comment, they still don't let it stay on there the whole time. All the other apps, you can pin a comment and leave it there the whole time. They won't let me do it on here. But 305-384-6894. Let me see if I can pin this comment. See, they won't let me pin my own comment. So 305-384-6894. Text me at that number. If any moderator is still in here, pin that comment that I just put up there. Text me at that number with the number 3. Just text the number 3 to that number. We'll send you a link to get this book. Just tell us where to ship it. We'll send you a physical copy of the book. Thirddaybook.com. Power Presence Protocol. You want to close more sales, you want to raise your prices, and you want to command every room without saying a single word out of your mouth. Yes, this can be done. Yes, I can teach you how to do it. That's the Power Presence Protocol. We got a whole program on that. We have different levels of access between our challenge, our mastermind, and our direct executive coaching. Go to powerpresenceprotocol.com. That link is in my profile. For those of you who don't know, and those of you who are new around here, I do these live streams Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Eastern. I'm usually done by 10. I went a little bit over today because I was long on the monologue. But I'm usually 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern. Next week, we're going to have a lot to talk about because there's going to be a bunch of elections on Tuesday that I would get to Wednesday. But I am telling y'all ahead of time, next week, I will be traveling Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. So I'm only going to be live on Monday and Tuesday next week. And I'll remind you all, but Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will not be live. I'll be back the following Monday. That following Monday, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have a bunch of topics that we need to get to. So I have a bunch of backlog topics. We definitely going to talk about the New York City election, regardless of who wins. We'll probably touch on this Virginia election, regardless of who wins. I think it looks like the Democrats are going to win, but we'll see. We might be wrong about that. And a bunch of other elections that happen and all the stuff that occurs. And then we haven't even brought up our favorite topic, which is Donald Trump. Donald Trump may say or do something or has something said or done about him in the next week. And we'll talk about that as well. And a bunch of other things. We got a bunch of other stuff that I want to get to we haven't gotten to yet. Some people in the Biden administration were called to Capitol Hill to testify the other day, and a bunch of them are covering up for Joe Biden, being that it was clear that he was on his way down. He shouldn't have ran for president last year. Cover up about that. We're going to talk about how the Biden administration hunted Trump and a bunch of conservatives trying to get charges on them. Karine Jean-Pierre, the former press secretary, her going on a book tour sounding very stupid the more she talks. FBI arresting NBA players for gambling. We might talk about that. Trump sending National Guard into Portland, getting cleared by the court. We may get to that. Some of these we may get to, some of them we may not. I got a bunch of topics I haven't even gotten to. We may never get to, but I always got a bunch in the chamber just in case. So everybody, I will see you all Monday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern. Monday, 8 a.m. Eastern. Topic always to be determined. I usually pick the topic like 20 minutes before I start the live. So I pick the topic about 20 minutes early because I got a bunch ready. So whichever one I think is the hottest topic or something hot happens between the last one and the next one, then that'll be the topic. So we never know what it's going to be. I don't even know what it's going to be. Everybody have a happy Halloween. Write your goals down for the month of November. Those of you who are goal setters, start writing your goals down for the year of 2026. We're about 60 days away. I'll see everybody Monday morning. Text me at my number if you want to reach me directly. Do not send me a DM. I do not read DMs. Do not leave comments on my posts. Or you can leave comments on the post, but I'm not going to respond to your comment on my post. If you want to engage with me directly, send me a text message. That's the only place where you can get direct engagement from me. Or you could be in one of my programs where you get direct access to me. But comments I do not read and DMs I do not respond to. My assistant may see your DM and might write you back, but you might not get a response at all. So if you want a response from me, text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And I'll put that in all y'all know the numbers, all in all these platforms that y'all are watching. Let me put it on Facebook. This Facebook one is always going to be there. So y'all can text me there. My number for those of you who are on LinkedIn, I just put my number in there as well. If you want to reach me, text me at that number, 305-384-6894. I'll see everybody on Monday. Everybody have a happy Halloween. Welcome to November. When we get there, remember daylight saving time on Saturday night and the Sunday morning. Your clock goes back 1 hour, so you get an extra hour of sleep. So it'll be bright and sunny outside at 6 a.m. now. I like that. They're trying to fight daylight savings time and take it away, but I like when it actually gets bright earlier. So I will see you all Monday morning. It'll be bright outside already by the time we start easily. Everybody have a great weekend. We are out of here. Work on your game. Thank you, moderators. Thank you, regulars. Thank you, everybody, keeping the lights up. We out.